That is just a snippet, a glimpse of what we have in store for you this evening. Shall we get underway? President William Ruto has announced that the country is out of danger of debt distress, saying that his policies to cut spending and raise revenue have started to pay off, terming them as the only way and means of escape for the nation. The president, while addressing the nation during the 60th Jamhuri Day celebrations at Uhuru Gardens in Nairobi, defended his economic reform agenda, saying that inflation has dropped and the country's gross domestic product growth is on an upward path. Apollo Kamau reports on a statement that will raise questions given the recent and current projections by the National Treasury and other crucial state agencies on the performance of this very economy.
On a week, the nation has been fed with grim economic realities. Amid questions on who is fooling who, President William Ruto, during the nation's 60th Jamhuri Day celebrations, chose a message of hope to an expectant nation waiting to hear a messianic message, and one that will be subjected to hard questions. The president says the country is out of the danger of debt distress, without saying how much the country has paid to clear its external and internal debts, including the much-touted Eurobond, whose failure to clear puts the country's credibility at risk.
We have had to cut back significantly on expenditure and to defer the implementation of critical development programs to stabilize our economy. The policy measures required to mobilize necessary revenues have been difficult, but they were our only way and means of escape. Proudly, these sacrifices have paid off. I can now confirm, without fear of any contradiction, that Kenya is safely out of the danger of debt distress and that our economy is on a stable footing.
The president's message, coming on a week his deputy Rigathi Gachagua said the government is committing 70% of its revenues to pay off debt, while National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Professor Njuguna Ndung'u lamented how the government is unable to pay salaries for public officers due to the debt distress and reduced revenues, while the Commission on Revenue Allocation cast doubt on increased revenues, given the Kenya Revenue Authority KRA missed its target by 72 billion shillings in the first quarter of the year.
The price we have paid together and the sacrifices we have made together have rescued our country from an economic catastrophe. After navigating our ways out of the difficult and complicated debt situation, our second action is to accelerate economic progress, which is the cardinal assignment of our generation.
The president told the nation his next focus in the coming year, 2024, is economic acceleration, which will be achieved through his latest initiative, Labor Export Abroad, where he is using bilateral ties to seek jobs for skilled Kenyans abroad and heavy investments in the education, agriculture and health sectors.
Our beloved President, Dr. William Ruto, is implementing a radical plan, the Kenya Kwanza plan for socio-economic transformation. For instance, in just a year, Your Excellency, you have laid a firm foundation for socio-economic transformation. In October, you put the nation on course to achieving universal health coverage. Under our President's leadership, we are implementing comprehensive educational reforms through the competency-based curriculum, which we have far-reaching positive implications on our country.
Jamhuri at 60. Tumpe makofi tafadhali.
The affordable housing project, which the president says has employed 121,000 Kenyans, digital jobs in the wards actualized through the TVET centers, monetization of the digital media content, the Hustler Fund, the NSSF Fund, where the state is targeting the expansion of retirement benefits coverage of 15 million Kenyans, stipends to the elderly, and the digitization of the government e-citizen platform as key steps to bolster the economy. The cost of living has been the bane of every Kenyan, putting the state on the spot as the opposition Azimio faults the Ruto administration for failing on the war on corruption, tribalism, and punitive taxes heading into the new year 2024. Apol Kamau, TV47.
From January 2024, Kenya will eliminate visa requirements for visitors. Speaking during Jamhuri Day celebrations here in Nairobi, President William Ruto announced that individuals planning to visit Kenya will have the option to pre-identify themselves through an electronic platform facilitated by the digital system. However, international relations experts have voiced their concerns about potential risks, including the infiltration of cybercriminals and unwelcome visitors. Mike Kagwongo with the details.
According to President William Ruto, starting January of 2024, visitors from around the world planning to visit Kenya will no longer require a visa. Speaking at the 60th Jamhuri Day celebrations in Nairobi's Uhuru Gardens, he emphasized that the country's social-economic development is propelled by globalization and border opening, justifying the necessity for abolishing visas.
This is not by accident. The scientific history account of early humanity is told by various archaeological sites in our country.
To implement this new policy, an electronic platform has been established that will ensure identification of every visitor to Kenya in advance. According to the head of state, visitors will receive electronic travel authorization after verifying their identity.
We have developed a digital platform to ensure that all travelers to Kenya are identified in advance on an electronic platform.
However, international relations expert and High Court advocate Henry Makakara believes that the decision may have implications if the policies for its execution are not fully implemented. He has cautioned that this change could potentially expose the nation to various risks, highlighting the ongoing concern of terrorism in Kenya.
On the one hand, visa-free travel into Kenya poses a great danger relating to corruption of processes, infiltration of organized crime, not the very least terrorism and allied activities, money laundering by international syndicates, and a lot of tax evasion.
Mahakara further warning of the possibility of fraudsters exploiting the move, targeting a nation already grappling with numerous challenges.
If really the policy choice for the administration was to give preference to visa-free travel as a spur, as an accelerator to improved trade and movement of goods and services, then relaxing visa would bring in to our shores much more danger than it would bring benefit.
Kenya is the second African nation to have recently opened its borders, following in the footsteps of Rwanda, which allowed all Africans to enter without a visa as of November of 2023. Kenya had previously waived visas from several countries, including South Africa, Djibouti, Comoros, and the Republic of Congo. Mike Kagwongo, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, the 60th Jamhuri Day celebrations proved to be a vibrant and optimistic event, characterized by a colorful display of culture and a dynamic marching display by the Kenya Defence Forces. Elizabeth Atieno with more.
The Uhuru Gardens in Lang'ata, Nairobi County, which played host to the 60th Jamhuri Day celebrations, looked glorious in all its splendor. Amidst the green, red, black and white colors that rocked this day. At 9:45 a.m., the moment arrived, with President William Ruto making a grand entrance aboard his ceremonial military Land Rover, navigating through Uhuru Gardens. The head of state greeted the assembled multitude of Kenyans with contagious enthusiasm. In response, the public stood in respectful admiration, reciprocating the president's warm greetings. Escorted by the Chief of Defense Forces, Major General Francis Ogola, President Ruto inspected the Guard of Honor meticulously presented by the Kenya Defense Forces Services, the Kenya Army, Kenya Air Force, and the Kenya Navy, accompanied by the KDF Band. The Kenya Defense Forces parade, featuring the Kenya Army, Kenya Navy, and Kenya Air Force, showcased perfect synchronization as they marched in unison. The 25 Mechanized Infantry Battalion proudly displayed their colors during the 60th Jamhuri Day celebrations, this being the second time such an event has been officiated by President Ruto since assuming office on the 13th of September 2022. Not confined to the ground, the celebrations extended to the skies with a spectacular fly-past presented by the Kenya Air Force fighter jets, adding an aerial dimension to the festivities. Similarly, catchy tunes reverberated the air, setting the tone for the celebrations as various artists and dancers complemented one another in their musical presentations. Renowned actors also showcased their talents. A group of youth unveiled their artistic creations, presenting images that narrated Kenya's struggle and journey to independence, adding a poignant touch to the commemoration. Elizabeth Atieno, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, a lot of Kenyans, statistically, were not alive at the time when Kenya found its independence 60 years ago. But in the last 60 years, a lot of us have actually joined the rest of the country. Here's my question for you. What do you think is the biggest growth or biggest advancement that Kenya has experienced in the 60 years of independence? And where did you celebrate or mark your celebrations? Where were you? What were you doing? How did you spend it? I know a number of people were, dispatched to the various watering holes across the country. Other people took to the streets to enjoy a day out. Other people went to work. Other people went to parks and everything. Let me know, where were you when, where did you mark this day? And what's the biggest advancement that Kenya has made since independence? Right. Over to the counties, and as thousands of Kenyans gathered at Uhuru Gardens in Nairobi to celebrate the 60th anniversary or 60th birthday of Kenya, similar celebrations unfolded in various counties as different leaders and residents united in their call for the government to reduce the cost of living. Chichi Josephine with the details.
6 decades ago, on December 12, 1963, Kenya achieved a republic status, marking its independence. Today, hundreds of Kenyans gathered to celebrate the Jamhuri Day event, commemorating 60 years of freedom. In Kirinyaga County, Governor Anne Waiguru addressed these celebrations at Good Samaritan Secondary School in Mutethi, where she appealed to the national government to permit rice farmers to acquire more rice mills when it undergoes privatization.
Mimi niko na suluhisho. Nimejitolea kuenda kuongea na Mheshimiwa Rais ya kwamba MRM, kama serikali kuu haitaki kuendelea kukua ndani ya MRM management, hiyo 55% ipewe shares za farmers. Watu wa Kirinyaga ndio wakuwe wana 100% ownership ya MRM.
Moving to Tharaka Nithi County, Governor Muthomi Njuki has urged President William Ruto to implement measures alleviating Kenyans from the challenges posed by the high cost of living.
Lazima tujikakamue tukiwa Kenya kwanza, lakini kwa sababu pale Mkenya amefika saa hii, sioni kama ikiendelea tena mwaka moja ama mbili, sioni kama bado tutakuwa tumesimama. Kwa hivyo kama serikali mpaka tufanye bidii tuhakikishe kwamba ile tunaita the cost of living for Kenyans has come down.
Let us not lose hope. Let us remain solid behind His Excellency the President William Ruto because he means well. Na tuendelee kuomba Mwenyezi Mungu kwa sababu tunajua wale wataalamu ambao wanafanya economic advisors ambao wako nao, they means well.
In Trans Nzoia County, celebrations were held at Township Primary School. County Governor George Natembeya and Commissioner Gideon Oyagi calling on parents to protect their children and at the same time urged the national and county governments to collaborate in addressing the rise in cases of early pregnancies and straight families.
Mzazi tukisha kuleta mtoto asirudi kwa street tena. Maana saa hizi ni mtoto anaomba. Si ndio? Hao watoto wadogo wanatakana kuwa wako shule. Tutasaidiana. Watoto wakae kule nyumbani, waende kwa shule, waende wasome.
Na tumekubaliana na gavana, tutaokota na kila chifu atakuwa huko ukibeba wako. Tumekubaliana.
At Rurie Stadium in Mathioya during the Jamhuri Day celebrations, Murang'a Governor Irungu Kang'ata urged the country's leadership to focus on improving the livelihoods of the people.
It's completely unfair to the people of the Republic of Kenya that 60 years of independence we still remain a poor country. Other countries that were at this level have now progressed better.
In West Pokot County, County Commissioner Apollo Kelo issued a stern warning against politicians making incitement remarks about insecurity along the border. He expressed concerns about leaders contributing recklessly to incitement, aggravating insecurity issues in the region.
So that we can ensure that those few areas tumesema pia iko na usalama, so that we can continue with issues of maendeleo.
Celebrations in Nyandarua County took place in Rurinja Jambeni Kinangop constituency, where County Commissioner Mohamed Mbare led discussions on ongoing government projects.
Lakini hakikisho yangu kama mwenyekiti wa usalama ni kwamba usalama tutapambana na wakora katika hii holiday, tuhakikishe ya kwamba watu wameenda kanisani vizuri.
In Kitutu Church South Sub-County, insecurity took the spotlight during this year's Jamhuri Day celebrations. Governor Simbarati accusing local authorities of laxity in addressing ongoing criminal activities. He petitioned County Commissioner Tom Anjere to ensure that security agents are not used to harm innocent people.
And I want the security apparatus just to analyze the situation how it is. We have not closed anybody out. People, they have come. Not even Simbarat would want to use the police. Not anybody who is elected want to use the police to cause chaos, to cause pain in our people.
Let us leave security issues to security managers. And you know, sisi tunaelewana na governor vizuri. When we have issues of security, tunaitanga mkutano yetu na tunakaa chini.
Chichi, Josephine TV 47.
Now let's cross the border to America, where the Jamhuri Day celebrations were organized by the Kenya Diaspora Advisory Council of Texas, offering Kenyans living in Texas a chance to participate in the festivities along with their compatriots across the country. And as Vera Alberta reports, the event was presided over by Kenya's ambassador to the US, Lazarus Amayo, with the organizers underscoring their commitment to preserving the traditions and customs of Jamhuri Day.
It was pomp and color as Kenyans living in Texas in the United States of America gathered to celebrate Jamhuri Day. Attendees shared their sentiments about Kenya's 60 years of independence, reminiscing about past Jamhuri Day celebrations they experienced in Kenya.
Even after 60 years of independence, I've always told my American friends, You never had internet in 60 years of independence. We do have internet in 60 years of independence, so we are way ahead. I am so proud to be Kenyan.
Growing up, we used to watch, the celebration with on TV. So it was actually a big holiday because he was away from school.
The event that was organized by the Kenya Diaspora Advisory Council of Texas drew the attention of many Kenyans living in the States, including Kenya's ambassador to the U.S., Lazarus Amayo, who lauded the organizers and Kenyans who turned up for the event.
Place where we have the largest concentration of the Kenyan diaspora. And so I'm happy that the diaspora have been able to come together, invite their friends to celebrate this landmark in Kenya's history. We look forward to having more of such events.
He also added that they look forward to more of such events, saying it will also help in strengthening the relationship between Kenya and the United States, citing the potential growth of the tourism industry in Kenya and the positive rapport with Kenyans in the diaspora.
Much more so for promotion of trade and investment between Kenya and the United States, and for more of our friends here in the United States to visit Kenya as tourists. But I'm happy that we're such a strong diaspora group, and we look forward to working closely with them in the future.
Monica Kariuki, the chairperson of the organization, said that the celebration aimed to bring Kenyans in Texas together, noting that the presence of the ambassador signified government involvement and underscored the importance of fostering unity among the diaspora community.
The fact that Ambassador Amayo was here today, that is, it is big for us. Us being a new elected members of KDAC, but yet that ambassador honored our request for him to come and grace our occasion. We find that to be a step in the right direction, that this government is willing to work with us.
Established as a foundational unit to promote the well-being of Kenyans in the diaspora, the Kenya Diaspora Advisory Council of Texas sees the Jamhuri Day celebrations as a unifying force that brings the community together. This is Vera Alberta reporting for TV47.
Now, away from matters Jamhuri, starting January next year, Inua Jamii beneficiaries will receive their stipends through M-Pesa agents in their localities, as announced by the President during this year's Jamhuri Day celebrations. The President said that an additional 2 billion shillings has been allocated for the newly enrolled beneficiaries currently undergoing verification. Orphans and individuals with severe disabilities will commence receiving their stipend through this new mechanism this month. Sheila Chelangat with the details.
Launched in 2015 with the aim of supporting the underprivileged in society, the beneficiaries of the Inua Jamii program have encountered various challenges.
This program has had challenges with the beneficiaries traveling long distances and spending considerable portions of their stipend on logistics.
To address this, the President announced the initiation of a new delivery mechanism allowing beneficiaries to collect their stipends near their localities.
We have structured a new delivery mechanism for all our stipend-earning beneficiaries to receive their stipends from M-Pesa agents in their localities. Orphans and persons living with severe disability will begin using this new mechanism this month in a few days. The elderly will, however, start in January because the process is being finalized.
The President emphasizing that the government has fulfilled its commitment to delivering stipends on time, even earlier than the salaries of public servants, including himself.
All the 1,200,000 eligible beneficiaries now receive their stipends on time before we are all paid as public servants.
Simultaneously, the less fortunate have an opportunity to access quality health care with the President's announcement of the NHIF contribution reduction to 300 shillings per month.
Those currently paying 500 will have their contributions reduced, with the least paying Kenya shillings 300.
The Inua Jamii program was adopted by the Kenya Kwanza government through a presidential directive in July this year. Sheila Chelangat for TV 47.
I'm sure you know the struggle for multi-party democracy was not a walk in the park. Well, the political freedom enjoyed in modern Kenya was hard fought, with some men and women enduring injuries, torture, and unjust detention, not to mention the humiliation they faced in front of their families, just to achieve this freedom. Moiga William engaged in conversations with several of these unsung heroes, acknowledging the remarkable contributions they made to Kenya's robust democracy, widely praised by neighboring nations in the region.
So let me tell you of a story. Once upon a time, Kenya was a one-party state, but it took the effort and courage of a section of men and women to change the narrative. In the late 1980s, Kenya was a nation trapped under the clutches of one-party state, led by the late President Daniel Arap Moi's Kenya African Union, KANU. But amid the political darkness, there were three courageous individuals who embarked on a journey to bring about Kenya's second liberation. This is the story of Manje Kamunye, an academician, Timothy Njoya, a man of the cloth, and Njeru Kathangu, a daring politician who defied the odds to change the course of Kenya's history. These three men were connected by one thing: the freedom of association for their motherland. Manje Kamunye was a teacher by profession. He returned to Kenya in the mid-90s after completing his higher education in a neighboring Tanzanian university. Kamunye will become a pivotal figure in the formation of the Mwakenya movement. The Mwakenya movement, an underground struggle initiated by several academicians aimed at advocating for freedom of association and political reforms, will later be banned by the Daniel Arap Moi-led government.
We took it upon ourselves, to continue that struggle that had been undertaken by our parents, to see that Kenya was fully liberated.
The gospel of the Mwakenya movement started spreading like wildfire. Among those who rallied behind the cause was outspoken PCEA Reverend Timothy Njoya. Remember the cleric beaten to a pulp under the watch of police? Njoya's unwavering belief in the liberation of the country was inspired by a verse from the Bible, Luke chapter 4 verse 18.
I wanted the church and the Kenyans to do what Jesus proclaimed.
The third and the last man was former Runyenje's Member of Parliament, Njeru Kathangu. He took a daring approach by fighting the system from within.
And the input for politicians simply is to say this: we need to replace them, so that we can be able to create an ideology for Kenyans.
Oblivious to these three men, their actions did not sit well with the Moi-led KANU government, and a multi-party political system was not a welcomed idea. In a retaliatory move, the government hunted them down.
I was put in for 5 years, and the charge was being in possession of mpatanishi. You note that I had not been arrested with anything, but that is how they framed the charge, and even produced a copy of mpatanishi to the magistrate,
Moi was using pangas. That was a Mangma way.
We got in and lit fires in KANU, and after 1 year we were arrested. So what you're asking is, was it worth it? What I believe in myself is, I'm not just a politician, but a political liberator.
The three men were subjected to torture, humiliation, suffering, and beating. However, this did not defer their cause.
Moi was, of course, very bad. He didn't respect human rights.
And in 1991 December, the government gave in to the demands of these three courageous men. It was a momentous occasion when, at the Kasarani Stadium, President Moi announced the repeal of Section 2A of the Constitution.
I have today assented to the bills as a sign of my commitment to political reforms.
This historic decision marked the beginning of a new era for Kenya, a journey towards multi-party democracy.
This Moi himself saved us from going his way. It sounds like a contradiction, but for me it's not. It's a transformation.
You cannot evolve, you cannot change unless you are inputting a different idea, a different thought into a societal process.
And that is the story of these men who bravely told to see a better Kenya, a multi-party democracy. And in the year 2022, Kenya held its 5th multi-party general election. Mwege William, TV 47.
And on that note, we want to take a short break. When we come back, we will have a lot more in store for you. Please keep it right here on the
Karibu Maybets.
Welcome back. If you're joining us right now, this is the daily report on our 60th anniversary of independence. And on this very subject, since gaining independence in 1963, the healthcare system in Kenya has undergone substantial developments, experiencing both successes and challenges. As the country commemorates its 60th anniversary, our health and science reporter Zainab Mohammed engaged in discussions with 2 senior health workers, drawing from their experiences as they shared insights into the past, present, and the future of the healthcare sector in Kenya.
Both Dr. Jane Wakahe, a public health specialist, and Boniface Mrashui, a retired nurse, worked as health practitioners back in the 1970s and 1980s.
My first posting was into Nakuru General Hospital, and that was a long time ago. The Nyayo wards were not yet built, so I was there as they were built in the 79s there.
I qualified in 1986 June. Thereafter, I was posted to Moi Hospital, Then it was just a district hospital.
According to them, despite the fact that technology was scarce back then, the health services offered to patients was top-notch.
There was a calling about being medical people then. The nurses were very kind, the doctors were very kind. We were few, and the patients were few. We almost knew every patient by name and exactly what they were needing at that time.
The hospitals were well staffed. There was no shortage of staff. So much of the work was done by healthcare workers, and we never used even to have caretakers in the hospital. We used to handle a client from the time the patient is admitted to the time the patient is discharged.
However, the health practitioners say things began changing gradually as the patient-to-doctor ratio began widening.
As time went by, we started experiencing staff shortages. Those who are retiring were not being hired or being replaced with enough new staff. So much of the time, we found that eventually the staff were overwhelmed.
Sometimes we would find ourselves, we have 3 patients in a bed. Like, for example, in the maternity unit, you'd find 3 mothers who have delivered. And I remember one of my colleagues one day asking, which of these 3 have I just examined? You know, because there are 3 sleeping like this on the same bed.
The conditions continued to deteriorate as days went by, with many public hospitals lacking essential commodities such as medicine.
I remember, in fact, like towards 1982 there, we sometimes had to ask the pharmacy what medicine they have, because then, so that we can prescribe, which was very, very odd because the Kenyatta had left, everything was running like perfectly.
Slowly, the practitioners say the healthcare landscape changed, with the private sector offering better quality of healthcare services as compared to the public sector.
I would come to this hospital, I would go to Mpisha, I would go to Aga Khan, and then I would still be in Kenyatta National Hospital. And I was kind of unable to marry the two. Here I come and prescribe whatever I want, get whatever the patient needs. You know, I don't have to think twice. And then there is like, what is there?
The onset of the devolution of healthcare witnessed a shift in health services toward local communities. Nevertheless, the practitioners argue that devolution fell short of its objective, as numerous newly constructed facilities lack the essential resources to function effectively.
Facilities are closer to people now. Almost in every village you'll find facilities, healthcare facilities. Unfortunately, in those healthcare facilities are just buildings. They don't have medication. They are not stocked. So much of the time you find those are kind of a white elephant because they don't serve the intended purpose.
60 years down the line, there's also a lot to celebrate with the eradication of diseases such as polio and measles.
It's universal vaccination. It's become very good. The health status, the awareness of what should be done, and people have accepted vaccinations. And people know that they need to go to hospital, not to depend on other things. So it's very rare. You will not see a child now die of measles. I've seen children die of measles long ago, and they're so sick, and the mothers in the village are looking for soil from what moles have dug up, and then smearing their children to get better, and of course they would die. So that is gone. We are way ahead.
Kenya has also become a medical tourism destination with the advent of various specialized services across the country. Going forward, the health specialists say the country's move towards promotive and preventive healthcare services is a step towards the right direction. Therefore, its successful implementation should be prioritized. Zainab Mohammed, TV47.
Now, 60 years ago, when Kenya attained independence, the primary goal set by the government was to combat poverty, illiteracy and disease. The big question is, has the country achieved any meaningful results in weeding out illiteracy levels? Our reporter, Andreen Kilemi, examines the country's education system since independence, shedding light on the challenges encountered and the milestones accomplished over the past 6 decades. Let's take a look.
The onset of independence ushered in extensive changes to the educational system. The creation of a unified nation led to the formation of one educational framework, eliminating previous divisions based on race. Since achieving independence in 1963, several frameworks were developed to guide the education system in Kenya. From 1964 to 1985, the education framework of 7423 was introduced. This consisted of 7 years in primary school, 4 years in lower secondary, 2 years in upper secondary, and 3 years of university. Irebe Mwangi is an associate professor and chairman of the Department of Kiswahili at the University of Nairobi. He is among those who went through the very first system of education after independence.
Nilifanya mtihani wa kitaifa CPE mwaka wa 82. Nafikiri ndio ilikuwa ya pili kufikia mwisho. Na kisha tulikuwa wakati huo tunafanya masomo matatu tu kwenye mtihani, hesabu, na kisha kulikuwa na karatasi ambayo ilikuwa inaitwa general paper, karatasi ya jumla ambayo ilijumuisha jiografia, historia, dini, sayansi na mambo kama hayo yote, na kisha kulikuwa na Kiingereza.
According to Professor Iribe, the 7423 system's strengths lay in identifying a student's capability, enabling them to identify their areas of specialization.
Ni mfumo ambao uliweza kuchunja wanafunzi vizuri sana. Baada ya kidato cha 7, kuna wanafunzi ambao walienda kufanya kazi za mkono, ambazo kwa sasa naona tumerudi kule kusema kwamba watu wa makinike na kazi za mkono.
It is remarkable that despite not being exposed to the Kiswahili language in his tender age, he has now become a professor in Kiswahili.
Sikutainiwa kwenye Kiswahili, na Kiswahili hata hakikuwa somo la lazima hata shule za sekondari. Lilikuwa somo la kuchagua. Lakini binafsi nilipoingia kwenye shule za upili nilikipenda Kiswahili. Kuna walimu wangu wazuri ambao walinitia shime ya kupenda Kiswahili. Nikasoma Kiswahili, nilipenda sana Kiswahili.
Many education experts believe that the factors that influence educational development in any country include historical, geographical, technological, religious, political and ideological. The political factor in Kenya is seen as the steering wheel of education in the country.
Siasa imeinua elimu yetu, acha niseme hivyo. Kwa nini? Sababu tukiangalia kuna wale watoto wanatoka zile mboma ambazo wasiwezi wasaidia, ambazo ni chochore. Ukiangalia watoto kupitia kwa siasa, kuna ile pesa imetengwa. Kwa sasa inaweza lipia watoto ile basari ama fees, mtoto anaweza kuendelea na masomo. So ni jambo ambalo katika siasa limeinua. Mijengo, unapata katika CDF kupitia kwa siasa. Mashule yamejengwa, mashule yameinuliwa, na hata unapata walimu wengi wale wamesukumwa na wakaajiriwa kupitia kwa siasa, sio wachache.
Jacob Thuranera Kaimenyi, who served as Cabinet Secretary for Education between 2013 and 2015, provides some general insights into key developments in the Kenyan education system since independence.
The things that excites me really is free primary education. Of course, some people might ask whether it is free or not, but free primary education, something even which made one of the former President Clinton just come specifically to find out who is this president, President Kibaki, for introducing free primary education. The other thing which I'm very excited about is a transition rate, which at the moment stands almost to be 100%. This is extremely rare, even in the continent and globally, and is something to be very proud of. The other thing which is very critical is the issue of gender parity. We are almost there because at independence, girls never used to attend schools, purely because of our respective traditions, from county to county or from one province to another.
The professor, however, opines that while there have been positive developments in the Kenya's education system, there have also been challenges and shortcomings.
our literacy levels, especially in terms of numeracy, in terms of being able to read, is not as one would expect, which is something that I feel is a source of concern. Then there's the issue of infrastructure, of rural schools compared with the urban schools, or well-to-do schools, so to speak, particularly private schools. There's a huge disparity in terms of infrastructure and even the pupil-teacher ratio. This is one area where I think, again, it's a miss. And it's something that we must address. Because when you have the pupil-teacher ratio is not optimum, you will find that the focus, the training, the teaching of our pupils is not at par with the best in the world.
It is clear that the Kenyan education